Okay, this is less formal than I thought it would be. For those just coming into the room, I cannot see my presentation on the laptop screen. I can only see it on my phone, and you can see it there. So this is going to be fun. Hello, I'm Brian Diamond. I'm an audio designer for Placeholder Gameworks, a company that made Death and Taxes, an somewhat indie hit from 3 or 4 years ago. I did not work on Death and Taxes, I will disclaimer, but I am working on the 2 current projects, Craft and Broken Alliance, that they're both working on just now. Let's see if that works. Yes. This is a presentation where I map getting into audio design in the games industry to the hero's journey. Let me click on the thing. I am not an expert by any means. I just want to share my experiences and insights. So mileage varies depending on the person and their background, of course, but this is my background, and some of it is related to my own personal journey and just things that I have learned, mistakes that I have made earlier in my career, and things that I learned later after taking a break. So, the hero's journey, a lot of people are familiar with it. There are various stages. It's mapped to a lot of literature. It's a very common 3-act kind of saga. As this presentation goes on, the mapping of the hero's journey to my advice becomes very loose. So it was merely a fun structure by which I would map my presentation and interesting restrictions. Because sometimes boundless restrictions or no restrictions on a thing makes it almost impossible to do the thing. First sections I'll deal with are the departure, so the ordinary world, the call of adventure, refusal of the call, and meeting the mentor. This is me when I was 18 or 19, just in college for music performance in Dublin, Ireland. That's where I'm from. I'm a freelance voice actor and audio designer at Placeholder Gameworks. I already said that. I started out playing in bands back in 2000 at the age of 15. I'm 38 now, so I'm old as... I'm not going to swear. 2004, I went to college for music performance. It was called the Rock School. There was a lot of, music performance showcases and stuff, so I come from a rock background originally when getting into audio. I went to college for games development in Dublin, in an animation college that some people who went on to work in Lord of the Rings and different things, called Ballyfermot College of Further Education. Let me click to my next slide on mine. Around this time I started being in bands. So I tried to be a 3D environment artist for a few years from the game development course. In 2010, 2012, I went to university in Scotland for creative sound production, which was a degree where I studied things like music scoring for multimedia, doing Foley recordings, producing radio dramas, a variety of things. In 2012-13, I did an MProf, a Master's in Professional Development in Computer Games Development, and that was an interesting thing. It was a 12-month program, so not your usual couple of years for a Master's, where you were set up in like a lab environment, and you worked with people from different disciplines. I'm an audio person. Artists, designers, programmers, and sometimes you worked on active briefs, some of which were for Sony, some were educational briefs for schools in the area, so it was a variety of clients. I was the only audio person in a course of 50 people, so I worked with a lot of teams during that year, and also did a lot of freelance. I worked on various projects during this time, working on casino games and gambling things, which sucked the soul out of my body, but it was work, and I learned a lot about feedback sounds and reinforcing a lot of fun and satisfaction for a player when they're using all of their money and spending it very impractically. Let me switch slides on my phone as well. This is me at GDC before I lost a load of weight. I've only been to GDC once. How many people have been to GDC? Anybody? Yeah, a couple of you. Actually, out of interest, how many people have done any audio in games? Okay, a few. I recognize at least one face from Game SoundCon, I think. Yeah. Hi. Nice to see you again. Anybody just getting started and is just interested in the subject? Yeah, most of you? Okay, cool. I think most of this presentation will probably be for you guys who are just getting in, but there's some stuff later on in the presentation that may be of interest to people who are further along. Again, mileage varies. So yeah, in 2014, I kind of got burned out in audio design because I was dealing with a lot of projects and I feel like I was doing a lot of the same things. I also was very shy about going for AAA as well. I tried and kind of got burned out trying for that. And yeah, in 2016, I joined the VGM community. VGM, you're probably familiar what VGM is if you're coming to MAGFest, video game music. Worked with, at that time, the Materia Collective, which is now kind of defunct as a community music making thing. Produced a couple of albums. A Supergiant Games album called Exile. I managed the production of that and dealt with a couple of hundred artists on that. I started voice acting in 2017, doing voice acting and dialogue editing as well, so I do a lot of dialogue editing for my daily work as well. And yeah, I manage massive collab albums. Change slide. This is a lovely pixel art rendition made for me by my co-worker at Placeholder Gameworks, Lena, who's in the audience. So 2019 to present, I do quality control for audiobooks, not audio related, kind of. I just mark a lot of problems with audiobooks so the editors can do stuff. I'm now doing voice acting. I'm in Spell Collective, which is a co-living, co-working environment in Sweden, the only one in the world, where I work alongside game developers, and sometimes I'm working with people outside the house and in. Yeah, and currently I'm working for Placeholder Gameworks on 2 projects as an audio design and also voiceover casting. I'm a voice actor myself, so that's an interesting position of casting. I need to avoid casting myself, so there's no nepotism. Or is that nepotism if you cast yourself? I don't know, maybe there's another word for that. I don't do that, we just find the best people for the job. Sometimes I'm in the shortlist though, that's great. Okay, call of adventure. I don't want to spend too long in the early parts. Things you need to be an audio engineer or designer, more specifically. A keen interest in audio. You don't mind hearing and making lots of strange noises and looking strange. You don't mind listening to the same looping sound over and over and over again for hours on end. Sometimes you can spend hours working on one sound effect that is only 1 second long. It's soul destroying sometimes, because when I worked in composition doing music, sometimes spent hours and it would produce 40 seconds of audio, and that was more satisfying sometimes. But when you nail that sound effect, it's great, and as you get better at it and smarter at it, you tend to, you know, just be more practical and like, is it good enough? And you can always circle back to it. Yeah. What was I going to say? You have a hoarding problem. So sometimes people collect a lot of trash when they're audio designers, especially if they're dealing with Foley, which is the act of, or not specifically Foley, but, you know, Foley is more film related, but, you know, hoarding a lot of random objects that you can make sounds with later on, and people might look at you funny for that. Yeah. Am I on the right page? Equipment you will need. Call adventure. Have a non-audio job. Have savings if you can. You need something to pay the rent. At first, you may be working either free or for very little money. I can barely see the writing on this, but you know, we'll see what we can do. Yeah, I can see the big writing. It's the small writing, unfortunately. Buy a computer or a laptop. It can be a basic thing at first. I think it's important to have RAM and a good processor, especially later on when you have plugins and you know, you need to process a lot of audio. Let's see. DAW, Digital Audio Workstation, super important. You can use Audacity at first. It's very, very basic and it's free. I would more likely recommend trying out Reaper. I mean, a lot of people in the game audio use Reaper and are evangelists for Reaper. It's a bit intimidating at first, but if you've never used Audio Workstation, it's probably not more intimidating than using anything else. Also, they have a perpetual free trial, kind of. It's very inexpensive, 40 or 50 euro. I do recommend after a certain time you do buy it. It is great software, but they are very good about not putting heavy restrictions on things. Let us see. External audio interface for recording. This is like a preamp sound card that you can plug microphones in to do recordings of various kinds, whether it's doing voice acting or whether it's recording sounds in the middle of the room. You're kind of, I don't know, hitting a tin can with a stick or something. I can't think of a better example right now. Or rattling coins inside I don't know, a can of jelly. Life is very random. A quiet space to record in. This isn't necessarily your workspace, it could be your bedroom. It's not always easy to have that. Maybe you can also, if you're at university, maybe there are spaces you can use there with permission. Need to make sure I'm still... field recorder and microphones. I use a H5N, I think, or H5. I don't know which. H5, yeah, it's H4N is the previous one I had. It's consumer grade. It's not amazing, but it does a good job. Like, it does a solidly good job. I think noise floor on that isn't great, but that's very technical stuff to get into if you're only getting the beginning. Let's see. Sound effects libraries and storage. As you get further into audio design, you will need terabytes, or at least hundreds and hundreds of gigabytes of space to store all of these sample libraries. I would recommend that GDC usually has a bunch of free sample packs that they kind of release every year that are offered by the community. So you can, I can maybe find links to that if people are interested. I'll share a link to my Twitter at the end, so if anybody has any questions after this, like that they need some resources, I can possibly send that on. Just need to keep an eye on the time. I did not set a timer for myself at the beginning. Let's see. Cool plugins. You don't necessarily need to buy cool plugins at the beginning. Please don't. I would say get used to the basic plugins. Learn dynamic compressors and other basic plugins, EQ. You don't need to spend hundreds and hundreds of euros or dollars on plugins at the beginning. Just learn your craft with the basics. I'm blanking on the audio designer for Hyperlight Drifter. What's his name? Akash Takar, yeah. He has a bunch of YouTube videos on audio design with basics like Audacity that are very useful to check out. And I think he has a nice course in helping people getting into audio design kind of do a lot of sound to video and a great like community that kind of collaborates and talks to each other and gives pointers. Here's a nice cat picture. Refusal of the call. Reasons and excuses why you may be afraid to take the plunge. I have to buy a lot of stuff. You don't have to buy it all at once. Just buy it a piece at a time and learn with what you have at the time. Train your skills with what you have and get good. You wouldn't buy an expensive car if you didn't know how to drive it. You wouldn't buy really expensive guitars if you don't, well, you might if you have a lot of money. If you don't know how to play a guitar at all, you'd start off with some crappy basic thing, at least I did, a Spanish guitar that was about like 5 inches strings from the thing. It was a bloody, bloody day that I learned music. Let's see, it's so expensive. You can get a regular job to build up your inventory. Go to a college or university, use their facilities to learn as much as possible. Mileage may vary, of course. I give this talk in Europe. There's a lot of like cheaper kind of solutions for university. I realize that fees in universities in the US can be quite expensive, or loans you need to take out, but there are valuable facilities at some of these universities, and you make a lot of friends and can network with people at them as well. They're in the same trenches as you. Ask your professors and fellow students for feedback, advice, and collaborate. Okay. Yes. There are so many talented people out there. How can I compete? Imposter syndrome will haunt you for many years. You know, there's always going to be someone better than you. There's always going to be someone who's not as far on your journey as you are, and that's fine. It's just better to just keep learning, just keep being interested in what you're doing. Learn from your peers rather than competing with them, you know. They're probably suffering from the same things as you. You're one of many, but that's okay. It just means that there's more awesome audio in the world to be inspired by, and you can do it too. But what if I stop making excuses and just start creating? So, meeting the mentor, another step in the hero's journey. University. You can go to university. There are pros and cons. University is a structured environment with facilities to learn, a community of peers that you can work with and learn from, professors with experience can give you valuable critique. Some professors in some universities have just worked in the games industry most of their lives and have, war stories and various other things, and they can be great at teaching. Some have that experience and are not great at teaching. Sometimes you have teachers that have barely been in the games industry but are great educators. I've worked with both. They both have value. And sometimes you like to go to universities that have a reputation of graduates that get jobs. But the job market is volatile, especially at the moment with so many people being let go from different things, and that's discouraging, but it's an opportunity for people to change their professions and try something new. It can be an opportunity. So if you're not coming from audio, maybe you're interested in joining audio. Get familiar with middleware and game engines in the process of university. I got familiar with Unreal, a bit of Fmod, not Wise, unfortunately, a bit of Unity as well. Make sure that I'm up to date. Cons, you only get what you put in, so make it count, especially if you're spending fees. Get involved in extracurricular stuff. Do extra work if you can, if you have the mental real estate to do it. Depending on where you live, it can be prohibitively expensive. A degree is just a piece of paper. Experience and demonstration of skill is important in getting a job. A degree can make a difference in an interview if you have the same skill level as somebody else, but they maybe have a degree. It can also be that maybe the person is a better fit for the team personality-wise. There's different factors, but it can be a thing. University can take up a lot of your time with write-ups and research papers, and if you're not interested in that kind of thing, it can be a pain. But sometimes you can make research papers work for you and work on projects that you want to work on and just kind of twist the criteria of things towards your interests so you can just get on with the work. I'll try and keep my face in the microphone so everybody can hear properly. It's hard to balance university with part-time jobs and your own personal projects. Yep. More pictures. Oh, my web page just decided to refresh. Okay, yeah, I lost it. Pros and cons of kind of not being in university. You can have your own schedule, seek resources online. Let me get back to the page. Sorry about this. Sorry, this is a bit of a nightmare. This is so awkward. It's generally easy to access resources online, but sometimes you need terminology, which is in the cons. You can learn a lot from just making things and just learning as you go. And you just search for bespoke solutions. So basically, if you need to learn a thing, you can just look it up online and try and find resources to do with it. Whereas if you were in university, sometimes you have to learn a whole load of things that maybe aren't of as specific interest to you in what you're working on. So it can be a little bit more agile. It is dependent. Oh, can't see anything. I'm so sorry. I got you. Are you taking a picture of my? If the laptop would stretch further, I would be able to see it from a certain angle. Thank you very much. If I had notes, this would be helpful. Always write notes for your presentations. Thank you. If you rely on feedback, you need to seek it out for yourself. Be prepared for constructive and hopefully not destructive criticism from your peers. Nobody likes destructive criticism or unwanted criticism. It's important to, if you're looking to give criticism to someone, ask permission. Because sometimes perceived negative comments can be a bit soul-destroying. You need to learn the terms in order to be able to educate yourself. The internet is seemingly limitless, so where the hell do you start? So it's good, university is good at, I'll switch the slide. University is good at teaching you some of the terminology you need. Thank you so much for your help with this, by the way. Public service announcement, important things to remember. Be prepared but not over-prepared. You can keep working on things and keep working on things in your own little silo and never share it with the world. But if nobody knows about it or you don't share it, then yes, sure, it's kind of a bit audio masturbation. Sorry for the kids at home. Or the kids in the room, hopefully not. It's like just you're making it for yourself, and that's all well and good, but you know, at some point, if you want to work in the industry, you need to get out there and see people. Next act, initiation, crossing the threshold, tests, allies, enemies. I got more dramatic. The approach and the ordeal. Can you do me a favor? I got you. This may slow down my presentation, but maybe I'll speed up now. Maybe I can read this. We'll see. It's appreciated. It's a scary world out there, but it's full of knowledge. Gather resources around you to buff your stats. I'm trying to make it very fantasy-like. Search sound design tutorials on YouTube. Go to specialist forums on Discord, on the wider internet, such as Game Audio Denizens on Facebook. I'm not sure if they have a Discord server. There is a great website called Airwiggles. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. It's a forum that was set up in the last year. It's kind of like almost like a social media platform, mini platform, specifically for audio and music. And there are a lot of very interesting challenges that they do where you can kind of try out things and share, and people are very active about giving feedback. Airwiggles, that's called, like wiggly air. If you type that in, I think it's the only resource that isn't called that. It's a great name. Reach out to your peers, get feedback, collaborate with a visual artist or level designer friends, or in university particularly, or graduates, and that can be very useful. Build a library of sounds. Start now. Start recording sounds. There is something called USC, University Universal Sound Catalog. Is that what it stands for? Or I don't know. Maybe you're not familiar with it. They have naming conventions for things for metadata. It's not something you have to do immediately, but maybe it's something. It's very useful to be able to catalog sounds in a very searchable way, so that as you build a bigger library, it becomes more relevant. Don't be afraid, just make stuff. Try to figure out how to make a sound, experiment, just record, process things through different plugins. Not sure how, look it up on the internet. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So many times I bashed my head against problems, and I could have just looked up a tutorial on YouTube. People make things and people share things. It's not always possible to get the exact thing you're looking for, but you can save yourself a lot of the time and just you don't need to grind, grinding doesn't feel good. It might feel good when you have that eureka moment and you actually unlock some skill, but let me just extend the entire thing and you can, thank you. Oh God. Stay. Thank you so much. You are my hero. You are the true hero of the hero's journey. So, it's dangerous to go alone. Obvious reference. Get involved in your game dev ecosystem. Go to game jams. It may not always be possible to go to game jams physically, depending on your location, but if you're in a bigger city, there may be game jams in your universities or in your local IGDA association. If you're International Game Developers Association. They may have a local chapter. There's Ludum Dare, different game jams online at least, where you can maybe collaborate with people as an audio people are always sought out. You may not have all of your stuff implemented in games during game jams, but they're sought out, I think. It's good to be an audio person in the room. In the wider industry, it's maybe a bit harder to be an audio person, but in game jams, we're unicorns. So portfolio, university, student, graduate, reach out to your fellow graduates. I mentioned this before. Make audio design real. Show off your skills. Redo sound design for an existing project, but be careful. If you're applying for jobs, you may end up encountering a person who worked on that original thing you're submitting sound reels. So research the companies that you're sending things for, and also be very careful with how you're phrasing. I redid this sound to make it even better. I was like, you're maybe donking on somebody else's work in the process of you know, and that can be an immediate. I've had things where, and in Placeholder GameWorks, people reach out and say, I want to be a composer on your game, and say, I think I could do a great job, a much better job than the other person. And the person who's monitoring the email is the composer. And I was like, why? Be a decent person. That brings me to my next person. Genuinely take an interest in others' work, because, you know, it's a collaboration. You're not in your own silo. If you're only interested in your own stuff, it can, you know, hold you back. Go to conferences and conventions. Not easy. You're obviously at a convention right now. It can be very prohibitively expensive to go to GDC. I realize that. If you're from diverse backgrounds, sometimes there are grants and funds that can cover you going to GDC. Or if you're students or recent graduates, sometimes there are funds where you can get scholarships to maybe go to GDC. I don't have any experience with that myself as a white, cisgender, heterosexual male who is long graduated. I don't get any of those things, but I get plenty of life advantages in general. So I'm grateful for that, but that's not right. Anyways, make friends, not network contacts. Most of the work that I've gotten has come from being friends with people and being in the room and just getting to know people as people, you know? Times in my early graduate days where I was just approaching things as I'm looking for a job, can you help me? It felt very transactional and they could smell it on me, you know? Sorry, could my photo assistant please help? Thank you very much. You're much appreciated. This is a lovely picture. Thank you so much. Yes, they are. Possums are all the rage. They're the new frogs. Sorry, did a twisty thing on me. Did the old twisteroo. I'm gonna get bad posture from this. So, God, that's only one extra 2 lines. Why didn't I do? You will never be ready. Don't over-prepare, as I said. Be prepared, don't over-prepare. It's a constant evolution. Just get out there. Just get out there and share again. I'm sorry I made you take a photo of basically the same thing. The approach. Yes, it feels like diving off a cliff with potentially dangerous rocks below. Don't do that in real life. Maybe do it metaphorically, take a leap of faith, but don't do it in real life. Thank you. We will never be fully prepared to take the plunge. In AAA, you can check out listings for audio designer gigs. Let me keep on the mic. It's highly competitive. You can't win if you're not in it. Failure is automatic if you don't even try. Failure sounds a bit harsh, but you know, if you're not in the room or you're not sending in applications, you'll never be considered. So you just got to get used to kind of getting rejected, unfortunately. As a voice actor, I've found I can be rejected more often at a much quicker rate, and it builds up an immunity because you have shorter audition times and much less. You sometimes just apply for a bespoke thing that has a few lines. It's like, yeah, unfortunately, most of the time they don't even get back to you and say that you were rejected. They just move on. But as a voice casting person, I can understand that. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people applying, but I do actually send out a big blanket email to all those that were rejected at least and tell them that unfortunately you weren't successful this time. So that's something. It's good to at least hear something because it can be very lonely. Target your showreel at a particular company you would want to work for. Research the company. Make yourself an attractive prospect by showing knowledge, and gearing your showreel specifically to them. If you're going into indie, reach out to your peers/contacts and see what they're working on, Maybe they're working on something interesting or something small that you can just do a bit of work on. You can work with somebody else as well on the audio, maybe a couple of you. Be prepared to be a generalist. You will wear many hats as an audio person in indie. I'm doing dialogue editing for Placeholder, along with voiceover casting, along with UI sounds, ambient sounds, probably some adaptive stuff in the future as well. I don't do any of the composition for that job, but some people do both the music and also the audio design. Sometimes you can team up with a composer and be a little team and kind of approach things as a team. Don't be afraid to just apply. It's automatic fail if you don't, as I said. Okay, thank you. That make sure that was the correct one. Did I go a bunch of pages ahead? Ah, yes, the final, the return. I probably don't need a photo of this one, but reward, the road back, resurrection, and return with the elixir. Some of this is more personal, specifically personal to my journey. The 8 B's, I think. Is that the 8 B's? Yes. Be enthusiastic, be interested, be friendly, be respectful, be organized, be on time, be ready to take on feedback, and believe in yourself. Those are my 8 B's that I just thought would be catchy to say. Be enthusiastic about other people's work and be interested. Be friendly with your coworkers. If you're a dick to your coworkers, they're not going to want to work with you, or you're going to be, or if the games industry is a small industry, despite the fact it's a massive industry. It's a small world, and if you treat people with disrespect, that can follow you, you know? Some people can be super skilled and be dicks, and unfortunately they might get quite far, but, you know, especially in indie, you really want to be really respectful because you're working in small teams. Just be respectful, please. Be organized, be on time, you know, just do the work, and, you know, sometimes you might need to work a bit more and just kind of reach out to your other disciplines within your team and try and understand what they're doing. So you might need to grow a little bit beyond the scope of your audio journey. Be ready to take on feedback, you know. You might be working directly for someone, or oftentimes I've had the designers in our team or like chipping in and saying, I'm not sure if I like this sound, or I don't like this aspect, and like I didn't specifically sometimes I didn't ask for feedback, but I get it anyways. And it can be harsh sometimes to hear like, oh, this isn't really working, and then you've worked on it for many hours, and you can get defensive. Don't just try and step back and hear what they're saying. And sometimes you may need to tell people, hey, could you phrase your feedback a little bit differently because it sounds disparaging? Can you say, hey, it might be even better if you did this, you know? It is psychology, but, you know, rather than, this doesn't work, you know, it sounds, we're all kind of artists, and I think so. And we might be a bit sensitive sometimes, and our egos can take a beating. And sometimes I say my ego is like a balloon. It's very easy to blow up my ego, and you know, but I'm very easy to burst. I'm gonna need a photo of this one. The road back, including cats. A moment of self-reflection. Thank you. How are we on time? I'm at the 35-minute mark. I should be okay. I think I gave myself a 10-minute buffer to finish before the 45-minute mark for questions. Some journeys meander on side quests more than others. Not everyone's journey is the same. So out of university, I tried to do audio design for at least 5 or 6 years, applying for some AAA stuff, failed at that. Seems some people try to get into AAA and come out the other side like out of a meat grinder. They kind of got overworked. There are some people that have very good jobs in AAA. I'm not trying to completely disparage AAA. I am more pro indie, full disclosure. There are people that have very satisfying careers in AAA, but even in AAA, audio and composing sometimes can be just contract jobs that are only for a certain amount of time, and then when the project is over, you might be out of the job. Not all, but in some cases. It's as stable as any other job these days, though, so many jobs are not stable. I kind of got burned out. As I said, you know, I've dabbled in bands, I've done 3D modeling. I wanted some money, so I got some jobs doing things I didn't enjoy, like working retail. My journey has meandered, but then again, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, so I can't focus on things properly. I'd be satisfied with things completely all the time. I went back to university to study game audio after kind of taking a break, and that really brought my enthusiasm back. And got some freelance and toiled a bit on casino games, lost enthusiasm for sound design, got burned out again. I've had many burnouts. It's great. I've been an audio designer, a sound library builder, a musician, a singer, a voice actor, a dialogue editor. I've been a 3D artist, a librarian, an artist life model posing nude for colleges, retail worker, and a barman. Yeah, so I've done a load of things. Yes, this boy is struggling. Here we go. Nearly done, nearly done. And then we'll take questions. I hope we're nearly done. I might show you, if I have a bit of time, I might show you a couple of examples of my work. I was meant to do that earlier, but this whole other screen shenanigans has been a pain. Thank you again for the picture. Sometimes we need a break to appreciate our craft more. I really agree with that statement. I should, because I wrote it. We may stray from our path, but it can result in a more rich and something. Rich and rewarding experience. You know, you learn things from other disciplines that you've been doing, and it can feed back into your work and give you an appreciation of what you're doing. I went back to super safe jobs while making video game music remixes, which I did for about 5 years. I got involved in some awesome online communities filled with inspiring people, got into voice acting and consequently creature sounds. I took an awesome creature workshop with the Monster Factory. They do some awesome creature. So I'm still learning. I want to make some death metal screams at some point without breaking my voice. I've been doing that for 5 years now, so it's a lot of fun. It feels like a hobby, voice acting. It's a nice break from audio design, which is more like intense computer work. But after a period of burnout, I'm writing songs again, voice acting, dialogue editing, and sound designing for myself and freelance clients and company I work for. So it worked out in the end. Summation, everyone's journey is different. We all have unique experiences and different life experiences that we can bring to our craft. It doesn't matter where you come from. You can do it. You can do it. You know, and that applies to any discipline, really, that you want to be interested in. Maybe you want to work on other things other than audio. You can be an indie. You can work on multiple things. It's tiring, but yeah, realistically, it's very tiring, but it's satisfying when you do it. I don't know. Someone's clapping out in the hallway. I thought that was for me for a second. Or slow clap. Stuff, what I am doing right now. I can do the English well. I'll show that after. I'm working on a game called Frogelike. This is for Spell Collective, which is the co-working, co-living environment that I'm currently in. The only one in the world. They made a Vampire Survivor style game killing cute frogs and bugs and lots of windy tongues. That's in early access right now. So I'm going to be making the music for that. The music in the game at the moment is just made by one of the designers. So that's something I'm going to work on. Return with the Elixir. I'll share a couple of bits of work at the very end. I think this is the final proper slide. So I think I have about 5 minutes before I need to do questions. I don't know if there's a staff member in the room who can confirm that, but that's fine. So maybe you're like me and have been doing it for a little while. Be like this guy. Share your knowledge and insights. So, you know, give back to your game dev community. Play it forward. Are you too busy to take another audio job? Recommend someone you think would be a good fit. So if you're too busy because you got too many jobs, that's awesome. But you don't have to try and take on more jobs and burn yourself out and overwork yourself. Maybe you have some friends that you have worked with in the past. You can be like, hey, this person would be great for this job. And it's not a completely selfless thing, because sometimes then that person can be like, hey, this person would be great for that job. You're playing it forward and you're helping each other. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're not competition. They might seem like it at first when you're starting, but everybody just wants to make cool things. So just do it. You can also teach a new generation of students. So sometimes there are teaching assistant jobs at universities if you have experience and you can help out, or make YouTube tutorials for things like Akash Dakar does, and, you know, put that out in the world and help the newbies. and offer your time as a mentor. There are some mentor programs in GDC, Game SoundCon, and other things like that. You, in theory, might be able to help someone new in the industry as well and help them get on their path. The industry is only as good as the atmosphere we all create, so lift each other up and don't be this guy. Don't hoard knowledge. Don't hoard knowledge. That's my bad impression of Benedict Cumberbatch doing that. It's not deep enough. Yes. Again, last thoughts. Be inspired. Listen and go get 'em. That sounded so cheesy. Before that, I will attempt to share one or two things that I've been computer. Just one computer. It's so awkward to do this. Not command prompt. I need to open up my USB. So I'll share a tiny bit of work from Craft and Broken Alliance, which is work I'm doing right now. MAGFest presentation. So, we'll see how much time I have. Broken Alliance sound design. So context, Broken Alliance is a tactical pixel art game. I'll give you back your phone because I don't think I'll need it anymore. Thank you so much. Clap for this guy. Mr. Rouse, I believe. Yes. I can't remember your first name, I'm sorry. Broken Alliance is a Heroes of Might and Magic inspired game. Anybody know Heroes of Might and Magic? Yeah. So it's pixel art and it's about environmental destruction and fantasy world with a lot of different factions and a lot of cool creatures. So these are the combat units with different animation sounds for them. So I'll just share that and hopefully it will appear. Oh, shit. Pardon me. And there is no audio. Sorry, I should have tested this. Does anybody have any questions, actually, while we... I don't know if there's a microphone in the room, but if you can shout your question or come up, that would be great, because I'll need to repeat it for the stream. I don't know if the audio is up on the thing. I can't see anything. It's not a big deal if we don't have this. What's your question, anyways?
So, I'm a hobbyist for 4.5-ish years, and I've been a professional technician. Something that I was really wondering is how you've been dealing with any sort of anxiety or burnout related to hearing about automation creeping into sound.
Do you mean by automation, do you mean like AI and things like that? So the question was, after dealing with how have I been experiencing any anxiety or burnout in reaction to the automation of things, particularly AI? As a voice actor especially, there's a lot of problems with AI scraping, scraping like kind of voices of existing kind of work, like running through a voice actor's kind of work and scraping the data set or something. And they're trying to put things into contracts. And I think there is some application of AI in very placeholder situations. I've seen examples of AI being used in game jams by people to just generate the sound of a voice saying open cabinet, close cabinet, and things like that for placeholder things, so they have implementation. And I think there is use for things like that, and then just it's so obviously placeholder that you need to replace that in the thing, and that can be appropriate use. I'm just trying to think. I haven't had to. I've been in my. It's despite the fact I've told people not to be in their silos, and kind of I've been kind of in my own little world with the placeholder gamework stuff, having a great team that support me and that are no interest in using AI in a very pervasive way. There has maybe been talk about it might be interesting to make reference mood boards and stuff like that at the very beginning of the process, but that's it, to just maybe think, but we're still very much kind of against, that.
It's been very interesting being on the outside of an environment like that, where I don't have the supportive team, I don't collaborators who value me and my skill set, I've seen a really surprising lack of care, especially like in live theater. It hasn't quite gotten around to audio yet, but especially in like scene design and stuff like that, I've seen people who are just completely willing to cut corners, and I'm a voice actor as well. So I thought this would be an interesting opportunity to get some insight on that from you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Yeah. We can clap, yeah. Yourself?
Yeah. I was curious, are there any websites you would suggest for trying to find freelance work?
For freelance work. I mean, freelance work itself, for just any general or freelance audio specifically. I mean, sometimes, Air Wiggles, as I mentioned, has a lot of help wanted or kind of itch forums, itch.io forums sometimes. I think itch.io, the website where a lot of game jam games kind of get posted up to. Sorry?
Casting Call Club is one that's more on the
Yeah, Casting Call Club is decent for voice acting, especially if you're really just starting out. Pardon? Fiverr, yeah, it's good. Like, you can be, selling your services for very cheap if you're not careful. And I wouldn't want to. I know if you're starting out, you may have a low sense of value of yourself, but you need to try and make some form of living, at least a basic living. Be careful of undervaluing yourself too much, because that also undervalues everyone else in your profession around you. I know it's hard though. The earlier you are in your journey, the more likely you are to do it. Sometimes I recommend that if you're, rather than working for free, you can sometimes work as like a skill exchange. Like if you know someone and you work for them for free, then they can do something for you free in return, like share their expertise on something else. Sorry, that kind of went away from your question a little bit, but trying to think off the top of my head. Most audio listing stuff is for AAA a lot of the time, so freelance. Voice Acting Club, Discord is great for voice acting. For audio design, though, it's a bit harder. Getting to game jams is usually a very good kind of thing, because you can work with people for a short amount of time in an intense period, and just they get to know you as a person while also seeing your skills, even if they're still early. If you can produce something, they'll remember you. I got a lot of work off the back of my master's by working with a bunch of people on the different projects, somehow managing to split my time between multiple projects. And they were like contacting me 2 years later, hey, I'm working for this small company that's working on this, and you were great back then. So some things can take a while to bear fruit, though. No, that's not the easiest thing if you're trying to make it your primary thing, but yeah, you're young. We're always still young. It's fine. Sound lister, yeah. I've been so, wrapped up in just having the work that I've forgotten all of this stuff, which has not been a very common thing for me, because I've usually been very freelance and very fragmented work and always seeking, but I'm in a comfortable job and I'm very happy for that right now. Yeah, yourself? Yeah, I've suffered burnout a bunch of times, and what were the signs of that, you said, and how did I kind of get reinvigorated to either try new things or come back to the thing? I think apathy in what I'm doing was a big sign of burnout for me, I felt like I was going through the motions. For instance, currently, I used to write a lot of music in Cubase, which is audio software, and I find myself going through the motions with it now. I'm like, this is so familiar, and I'm just doing the same things all the time. And a lot of the time, if I'm just doing things for personal work, sometimes I don't have as much interest. I've become weirdly driven by gigs, This is work for a client, and it's hard to do things for myself. And if I do that too much, if I focus too much on the personal work, and I'm not kind of getting there with it, then it's a problem. I don't know, just switching, because I have the luxury of being able to switch to different disciplines, I just found it, very interesting. Again, it might be my ADHD brain that is getting tired, because with ADHD, you're constantly seeking dopamine, and new things give you dopamine. And so, some interesting fact though, my girlfriend recently started writing music for the first time properly in FL Studio, and so I decided I'll pick up FL Studio, and all of a sudden I'm interested in composing again. Sometimes I have to try different tools or different approaches to kind of reinvigorate my love of a thing, because I can just get stuck in a rut doing the same thing. But this could just be me. I'm not sure about other people who are just getting burned out from overwork. I did have to, a few years ago, have to calm down with freelance work because I felt like I was overstretching myself. And I did, luckily, started working with Placeholder at that time with a reasonable rate of pay per hour and kind of a steady set of hours that I could pull back. And not everyone has that luxury, unfortunately, but now my schedule isn't as over full. So giving yourself some time to play games. Sometimes playing games can also reinvigorate your love of games. But if you're working on games or working on other media all the time, sometimes you don't have the bandwidth to play the thing. That's the biggest thing about working in games. I found I don't have time to play games anymore unless I set aside the time, But yeah, I don't know if that helps at all. I feel like I just rambled there for a few minutes, but yeah, burnout is universal to nearly everything, especially creative things, I think. Any other questions? I don't know if the audio thing ever got fixed, but
I can't seem to find where the audio out is on the thing over there.
I mean, I can get it on this laptop.
I can try. I can just record it. Yeah, I can just do the microphones on there.
You won't be able to. Yeah, you probably won't be able to. Oh well.
Try this.
Anyways, this is so ad hoc. You can't see what's going on because there's a whole visual. But just imagine. So, Craft is a fantasy merchant simulator game, which I'm narrating currently on this video, and I'll give you audio description. Yeah, I know.
I'm trying. Hold up.
You won't be able to hear the audio as soon as it transfers to that. So
I could try this. Watch this.
yeah, we can play a video. At least even if it's silent, you can see what it's about.
Okay, I'm gonna need
Wind spell.
set of eyes.
A fantasy.
On the volume control right now.
Still got 7 minutes to fix this problem. Any other questions?
Less flexible is the feeding schedule of your pet owl cat. Meow.
You can hear a tiny bit. The stream won't be able to hear any of that probably, but I don't know what's going on with that video, but it's partially cut off.
Oh, hello. Are you the owner?
This is lovely. Thank you. Yeah. So, Craft is a non-violent game. You play a fantasy merchant working as a blacksmith / jewelry maker. There's a lot of fun furry characters and non-furry characters. It's not a furry game specifically, but for any of those, there's lots of cute characters. Hi, welcome to the panel.
Thank you. Sorry,
It's okay.
I'm just trying to.
That's okay. It's okay.
Pretend I'm not here. I'm just your assistant.
Thank you. There's Broken Alliance, which has some cute hedgehogs. These are the units I was trying to show you earlier. You maybe can hear that a tiny bit. Sorry. Just giving you a couple of examples of each. He's munching a mushroom. It's like Super Mario and Sonic combined. This is a troll unit for Anchorage, our Nordic-inspired faction. Stop talking over the audio. He's got cute little critters with him. It's Aw, poor guy. I will take another question in a minute from you. Just conscious of the time. Still got 5 minutes, so we should be okay. This is an electronic, synthetic faction called Forge. Kind of like Protoss, I think, from StarCraft inspired. This is called the Observer. Yeah, again, 2 of them, just in case you didn't catch it the first time. Anything else? Yeah. This is Mandy. She's a tentacle infesting a doll. This is not hentai. This is just a tentacle monster inside a doll. Sorry, kids. Don't ever look up that term. Okay. Maybe I'll play one last thing, which is this I made like during university. This was a sound design reel. It's very dark looking, I'm sorry. It involved submarine mini games for a project in Unreal. This is like 12, 13 years ago at least. I worked on the music and all of the audio design for this. So get ready for an alarm that will be very loud, but not loud for you, so. Just to give some context of where I was 12, 13 years ago at least, and what I'm doing now, you know? So I'm not just bullshitting, basically. I did stuff, I swear. This is very dark. You're in the submarine, kind of just finding your way through rubble and trying to avoid getting hit. Can barely see that. This is a bit of vertical layering of music as the big enemy approaches. It gets more intense, so there's another layer of music. There's basic implementation in Unreal, not using Fmod. Okay, I'm probably gonna stop it here though. Okay, I'll just stop it there. There was another bit, but I want to answer the question that you maybe had. Yep.
Yeah, so I've worked on like 1 or 2 like projects with teams at this point. So in like the early stages of like working on your career, would you say it's more important to define your own style or try to be as adaptable as possible for different games?
I think the question was, is it important, like maybe early in your journey, or I suppose at any point in your journey, probably early, to define a style or be as adaptable as possible, just for the people on the stream? I think it depends. I mean, if you have a very specific target in mind, like if you want to work on, I don't know, Angry Birds or some very cartoony kind of stuff, then you can potentially, and you wanted to get into maybe more AAA stuff and you're targeting, you could be very focused. I mean, you want to work on the games that you're interested in working on. You can gear some of your skill set towards that and try and apply for jobs in that, or look to work with people who are working on similar type projects. I mean, it depends. I'm sorry that so many of my answers to this, it depends what you want. I mean, being versatile is great because then you can just be, work on multiple different things, but then sometimes you can be a jack of all trades, master of none, but better than some is the full phrase of that. So, yeah. I felt like I always acted like a generalist. I mean, I think just audio just interests me, regardless of whether it's horror or cartoon or, So it just, the process of figuring out how to make the sound is the main interest to me. But if you want to get into specific types of games, you could just focus on that thing. You might limit yourself in the short term, but maybe you end up working on those projects in the long term. It just might take a while for you to get that job, is my answer to that. I hope that helps. Yeah. Cool. I think we're on time now, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you for coming. Sorry for all the technical difficulties.